All right, so if you guys don't create YouTube content, you may not know this, but YouTube has a couple of channels. One of them is Creator Insider, and it's supposed to be where they give you tips and tricks and kind of help the creators figure out how to, be successful on the platform. One of the things that YouTube is really great with here is that they give these awful, vapid, worthless interviews with people who are successful on YouTube. Let's get into it.
Hello, insiders. Today I have a very special guest. I have Zach from the Try Guys on the Insider Nation. Welcome to the show, Zach.
Hey, Tom, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here and chat everything YouTube.
Oh, awesome. We're going to talk to Zach from the Try Guys. He's really famous. Like, the Try Guys is huge, so he's going to have really great insights, right?
I reached out to my alumni network. I went to Emerson College, which is a great film production school. And a friend of mine, Ella Milton-Ashenko, someone I kind of knew of in college, but we never crossed paths. She jumped on to help me produce. And she was the very first intern at BuzzFeed's video program. She's saying, like, Zach, come work at BuzzFeed. Zach, come work with me. I'm like, I don't want to.
Okay, so moral of the story is that Zach went to school and someone from his alumni group ended up working with BuzzFeed during the beginning of their video program. So then Zach got to get in because he knew somebody early on, and he didn't have to make it up from zero. BuzzFeed was a powerful magnet that already brought a whole bunch of viewership, so he got to tap into BuzzFeed's viewership. Zach can't tell you how to make it on YouTube from scratch because Zach didn't make it on YouTube from scratch.
So the Try Guys was birthed at BuzzFeed.
Yeah.
Then how does that work? Doesn't BuzzFeed, like, was that why didn't it stay at BuzzFeed, and how did that transition happen?
Tom kind of calling Zach out over here about, hey, did you like create this IP that belongs to BuzzFeed and then steal it?
After about 4 years, look, I have nothing but good things to say about my time there. But I knew as a creative person, and just as a human in general, I needed to leave to grow. So we all made the decision to leave.
All right, so Zach explains basically a thing that's really popular that just happens on YouTube anyway. The first time I ever noticed it personally was with Rooster Teeth. You ended up with, what's his name? Ray was, part of Achievement Hunter, and he ended up going home and streaming. And so what happens is you have these companies who are view generators, and they hire people on as personalities. And this is kind of what happened with BuzzFeed as well with the Try Guys, right? You got 4 of these producers. Well, what happens is eventually you end up building enough of an audience on your own, whether it's from Twitch streaming video games, kind of like Bruce did with Funhouse, or with these guys making their own show, to the point where they're like, well, we can actually cleave eventually from that, mother company and then just go start our own thing. And so it's really difficult to make these kind of huge conglomerate, view farm companies, because eventually most of your, what do you call them? Your personalities, I guess, most of your, faces end up just moving on anyway and just doing their own thing. And that's what we ended up happening here. But once again, I don't work for BuzzFeed, so I can't get, you and me trying to make it on YouTube, trying to, build something from the ground up. We don't have the giant view farm that we're connected to. So is the moral of the story just go work for BuzzFeed? I mean, that could be what they're saying, but they're not saying that.
You must have Emerson alumni and friends say, like, hey, Zach, I love what you're doing. I want to do it too. What's the secret? How do you succeed on YouTube? What advice do you give people when they're starting out and they want to, kind of follow in your footsteps?
There are certain things I can tell people about what does and doesn't work and how to optimize their content. But ultimately, you learn through doing and just getting in there, getting your hands dirty, making a lot of content. Yeah, you have to learn trial by fire.
Holy shit. That's fucking amazing. God. Hey, if you have any alumni or friends or anything that want to do what you did, they want to figure out how to make it on YouTube, what advice would you give them? Oh, well, you gotta try different things. What the fuck was the point of this video? I mean, this video works on a certain level as a just interview with Zach and, hey, tell me about your experience. Anyone who's a fan of the Try Guys maybe wants to hear about this kind of stuff. But it is worthless for, here, he's going to tell you what to do, and here's how, here's the steps moving forward on how to actually succeed.
Could you give an example of something you've seen another YouTube creator do, or through your work with them, that you're like, that's a really cool approach?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Good Mythical Morning, I want to say they film out a month's worth of videos in 4 days, maybe in a week.
Okay, so here's how YouTube basically works. You put out a video and you're going to have a thumbnail and a title. Those two things together are going to be your best advertisement for that impression, which just means like someone saw your thumbnail. So what happens is every time someone sees your thumbnail, if they click on it, then that counts as a view, obviously. And now we have what you call a click-through rate. It's how often is your thumbnail shown to people versus how many times have they clicked on it. So if you have 100 impressions and 10 clicks, then you have a 10% click-through rate. The higher your click-through rate is, the more YouTube wants to go and show that video to more and more and more people. YouTube wants to populate people's screens with thumbnails that have really high click-through rates so that people stay on YouTube and don't click away because they feel like there's nothing on to watch and they go to Facebook or something. The catch is that when they show it to more and more and more people, that's going to make your click-through rate go lower and lower and lower. Once 1 million people are being shown your thing, there's a lower percentage of people out of that million that are going to want to click on it. So you end up with these competing graphs, right? So you end up having high click-through rate, but then you have low views, your views start going up and your click-through rate starts going down. And once your click-through rate starts going low enough, it stops showing your video to people. So that basically is the curve of the lifespan of a YouTube video. Another factor that matters there is viewer retention or watch time on those videos. And the main reason that that's useful is because if people are clicking into your video and immediately clicking out, the algorithm is going to assume that you have clickbait, basically. So if you have a good viewer retention, it means people are clicking on your videos, they want to watch them, they're interested, and then they're going to stick around. So one of the problems this creates is that we end up getting channels like Mr. Beast or Good Mythical Morning where it just becomes like, how do I get people to click on this video? I guess we'll eat tarantulas, or I guess we're gonna make things cold foods that shouldn't be cold and make things hot that shouldn't be hot. Or you get Mr. Beast where he has gotten successful enough that he can get brand deals and then he gets to leverage the money from those brand deals into more content. So it's like, oh, cool. Honey is sponsoring this video. They're going to give me $40,000 to donate to a random Twitch streamer. And people are going to want to watch that because it's like, oh my God, that's so much money to a Twitch streamer. How crazy. And it's just this kind of vapid content over and over and over again to get people to go like, wow, what do 100 million Orbeez even look like? I have to click on that. We're seeing the same thing with a lot of these like science channels, right? There's all these people who are doing the like, hey, can you, forge obsidian into a sword? What happens when you freeze this? You can kind of track that all the way back to like the Will It Blend guy from like 2007. And so it's fine that that kind of content exists, but the insidious thing is that because of how the algorithm works, it basically just says, hey, you need to scream the loudest for people to notice you. And these are all groups that I'm not even mad at. I mean, I haven't even gotten into like the Fortnite people or people who, Sniper Wolf, who make content for kids, basically. And that's why that stuff is so popular, and that's why people are doing it so much, is because that's how the algorithm punishes you. But there's one more really insidious thing with the algorithm that we'll get to in a bit.
What do you think you want to see, you'd like to see us do more of or do a better job at?
Well, I have to pay my respects to the algorithm. It giveth and it taketh away. We've had a mostly really positive experience. I mean, part of it, I think, is because we began first as just students of trying to understand how it worked, and that's informed a lot of our creative decisions.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about right there. The algorithm wants things from you, and so everybody is trying to change their content to service the algorithm, which sucks because that's a feedback loop. So then the algorithm is going to get more and more staunch in its ways, and people are going to do more and more to try to feed the algorithm rather than just trying to make the best content they can make. Again, Good Mythical Morning, right? Rhett and Link went on H3H3's podcast, and they complained about how it felt at that time before the, the adpocalypse involving kids, the Elsa Gate stuff. They were complaining about how YouTube was starting to feel like it just was a child's content platform.
The thing that's driving popularity and views on YouTube right now are the tastes and habits of children.
Thank you for acknowledging that, because that's something that most people don't understand. Because you said, for example, like when I see something popular, I don't understand why. And my answer, which has held true throughout the time, and I always say, is kids. It's kids.
Right.
And that they wish they could make more interesting and more adult, more mature, interesting content, but they kind of feel like it's like, well, okay, well, I guess I'm eating tarantulas this week because that's what the kids are clicking on and that's what the algorithm wants.
We made a DUI series. We did stoned driving. We got stoned on camera, not demonetized. We were like, what is going on? Then we did an earwax extraction video, and that was deemed as an invasive surgery, which I still disagree with. I think you guys are wrong about that.
Would you say most of your concerns or feedback for us is around policy?
I like how Homie doesn't even respond to that question. I assume that maybe he did, and then they just cut it out or something, because maybe it was awkward. But it's kind of funny that Zach actually did have the balls to be like, hey, man, you guys are straight up wrong about this. And he's like, okay, so what'd you say?
I've had a pretty good experience with the features and tools.
Okay, great. So Zach has had a great experience with the features and tools. Again, he doesn't know what it's like to try to earn the favor of the features and tools because he immediately got to plug into a massive machine that got to use the leverage of all of the, blog viewers that they already had into that new video content. We saw the same thing with Cracked. It's like you have these magazines that were already doing their thing. So when they started making video content, they just got to usher all of those same viewers over here. Then when they start hiring people and those people are like, oh yeah, the algorithm works really well. Well, of course it fucking works really well.
As a company, you guys have a tremendous responsibility. And I think it's a responsibility of precedent that, frankly, technology is advancing faster than society and government can understand. And so you guys need to be the ones that really dictate what does it look like to be a responsible company in the modern era? What does it look like to decide what voices get to thrive and not? There's the future of deepfakes terrifies me.
So again, Zach is totally right here. This is really interesting stuff he's talking about how YouTube does have a massive responsibility because we are getting into this problem where the new oil barons are tech barons, and Susan has way too much power over speech in America, in the world. Here's the problem. This fucking video is called Zach from the Try Guys, Insights on How to Succeed on YouTube. They're like giving up on that premise because they're like realizing together that Zach has nothing to tell you about how to succeed on YouTube other than getting a time machine and go back and work for BuzzFeed 10 years ago.
We have been told by you guys that one video bombing does not affect the videos thereafter, that the algorithm sees every video as unique. And experientially, I can say that's not true. We had, our average is about 1 to 1.2, 1.6 in a day. We had one video that was an experiment of ours, and for us bombed. I want to say it's a 400,000 to 600,000 view video. And as a result, our next 4 releases were much below our average, and we finally just recovered from that.
I mean, do you not accept the possibility that the subsequent 4 videos just, were not as good as your typical videos?
Fucking shade thrown. He straight up says, do you not accept the possibility that maybe those 4 videos were just bad? Fuck you, dude.
Keep up the great work, and thanks for keeping it real.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And hey, to anyone watching, just keep making stuff. That's the best thing that you can do. I become a student of thumbnails and titles and understand what success looks like. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be satisfied if you're just chasing other people's success.
If I had a cup of tea, I would toast to you. Right?
All right. So here's the biggest problem with how the algorithm works is that it has a really, really, really negative, the rich get richer problem built into it. What it does is weights the things like relevancy to the title of the subject you're talking about. So say I go on YouTube, right, and I'm searching for guy eating tarantula. Well, no, screw that. Let's say I go on YouTube and I'm searching for a review for this new movie. Well, what happens is if the small creator puts out a super relevant title and has a good thumbnail for it, then he gets ranked, higher based on those things being better and the click-through rate being better, right, for people to go check this stuff out. But 3 months later, some massive YouTuber who has like millions of subscribers can put the same video out talking about this old thing that's not even hyper relevant anymore. And not only does he get all the viewership from his subscribers, but he actually is weighted heavier on the algorithm, and it will try to show people that. If I go look up a review for a movie that I did, like let's say Guns Akimbo, when I go through my search results, I'm going to see Adam from YMS's review of that movie that came out months after mine, at minimum weeks after mine, way higher than I'm going to see mine. I probably won't see mine at all. The problem is that this isn't a fair level playing ground. They've created this King of the Hill situation where the Chris Stuckmans of the world and the Jeremy Johns end up getting to put out, whatever they kind of want because they've already made it. They're like in that room. They should have to play by the same rules that we do, which is having something hyper relevant, having something with, really good thumbnails, and being timely. And the value that you should get from being a big YouTuber is that you have a lot of subscribers and those people are going to come back and watch your stuff. Like that is your reward. But the algorithm doubles down and says, hey, you have all your subscribers who are going to watch your stuff, but also guess what? We're going to help pump this stuff to you. You're going to people hop on their recommended page and they're going to be constantly being fed content by people with massive subscriber counts rather than just people who are putting out the more relevant content. It would even be nice if they let people set up themselves, like the kinds of content that they want to be shown. You know, don't just show me the biggest people, show me the most relevant people, show me the freshest stuff, right? So trying to break through ends up being really a massive luck game. It's either being lucky that you knew the right people who could pull you in, or you got connected to the right company that could pull you in, or you're someone like PewDiePie who would absolutely, and has admitted multiple times, he just got extremely lucky. He wasn't watching videos like this. He wasn't watching all the 50 million gurus who teach you how to get more YouTube views on YouTube in a month, how to get 1 million subscribers. He wasn't even working really hard on like his title thumbnail combos or anything like that. He was just making content, and the YouTube god smiled on him. And again, that's not something you can teach people. It's like, hey, just make stuff, and I guess, and that's exactly what Zach ends up, button hooking the whole thing with anyways. He just says, okay, yeah, just, make whatever you want, and, and hope. And it's just, that's, the problem is that the standard has been raised so high for what YouTube content needs to be for you to ever have a chance of it doing well, that it isn't just this like fun thing or whatever. These videos that I make seem easy, but they take me like a long time. It's a lot of editing. It's like very difficult, and I'm constantly trying to figure out how to change the format so that it's not so hard and like hours and hours and hours and hours of editing to try to perfect this content that I make for like 200 views or something like that. I just broke 1,000 subscribers, which is really nice, and once I hit a couple more watch hours or whatever, I can try to apply to be monetized, which is really cool. Except that I'm still nowhere near to where I would make anything. Like, this video is probably going to make me like pennies, literally, if I end up getting monetized. And so YouTube, I don't know. I have no faith that YouTube's going to change anything, because I think they're just completely worthless. I think that a competitor for YouTube, if they were to come about, that would be the thing they would have to fix. They would have to figure out how to keep things at a relatively even playing field so that the big YouTubers don't have the just, okay, cool, I made it now. I was one of the founding people. I can just sit back and make whatever I want. And that's fine. They can do that. I don't mind. But they should have to compete against me the same way that I'm competing. Both of us should be trying to fight for the best click-through rate, the best, relevancy to what it is that we're talking about. And again, they'll have the benefit of that all their subscribers are going to watch them, which is really cool. But both of us should be in a relatively even playing field. And YouTube is an extremely unfair place right now, where there's kind of the bourgeoisie of people who started 10 years ago and ended up getting some traction when they didn't have a lot of competitors. And now that they're involved now, they don't really have to do a whole lot. They can talk about a movie 2 months after it comes out and everything's fine. Or you end up with all the big YouTubers, like, again, you have, Mr. Beast and Good Mythical Morning, where it's just like, what's the most outrageous thing that I can try to put on YouTube so that I can get people to come and watch this stuff? And I know that those guys would rather be making other kinds of content. Mr. Beast, I don't know so much about that, but Good Mythical Morning has all but come out and said, this is like why we do the stuff that we do.